Hello vinyl community, this is Randy. Today I'm going to shine a spotlight on the Hollies. I'm a big fan of the Hollies. I never really see any of the records get shown in the VC, so I figured I'll show some. I first became really familiar with the Hollies when I got this CD box set a few years ago. It's a 6 CD box set. It's called the Hollies, Clark, Hicks, and Nash years. 6 CDs, so it's basically everything they recorded. It's a cool box set. They all fit in there, and I was never able to figure out how to get them back in. So they're cool CDs. They kind of look like 45 RPM records. They're all different colors. But it's a really cool box set because, yeah, like I say, it's everything they recorded from the beginning until Graham Nash left in 1967. So the group was Alan Clark, Graham Nash, and Tony Hicks. So Graham and Tony played guitar. Alan Clark sang. All three of them sang. Alan Clark just sang. They started out with Eric Haydock and Don Rathbone. Don Rathbone didn't last long as the drummer. He was replaced by Bobby Elliott. So the group was really pretty stable until 1966. Then the bass player changed. So if you're interested in seeing, there's the lineup. This booklet's really handy. So they are another one of the British invasion bands that kind of like the Beatles, Rolling Stones. The albums that were released in England were not released simultaneously in the United States, so they were released a little bit later in the United States with some changes. The first one that was released in the United States in 1964, Here I Go Again. These are Sundazed reissues. I never see Hollies records out in the wild, so yeah, these are all going to be reissues. So this album, yeah, Here I Go Again, is mostly an album called Stay with the Hollies. It adds a song called Here I Go Again. That was the first one in the United States in 1964. Really good song on here called Just One Look, which I'm sure you would know it if you heard it, Just One Look. They also do a cool version of Rockin' Robin on here. So these are early songs, kind of like the Stones and the Beatles. They aren't writing most of those songs. Has a really cool label, Imperial. So these reissues were done by Sundazed in 2010 and 2011. The next one in the United States, 1965, was called Here Here. 1965. This is mostly an album called Hollies in England. It deletes a song called Mickey's Monkey and adds a song called I'm Alive. Another good album. Once again, they're doing mostly covers on here, even though they are introducing a few of their own songs. This is also on the Imperial record label. The labels all look like this afterwards, except for that color that's red there is in different colors after this. So cool looking label. That was 1965. In 1966, Beat Group. This is an album that in England was released as Would You Believe, but it also takes some songs from Stay with the Hollies and also just another song. So the two songs it adds are Mr. Moonlight and A Taste of Honey, which is just interesting to me because those are two songs that the Beatles also covered. Yeah, so Beat Group. Cool cover. That's 1966. The next album that was released in England in 1966 was called For Certain Because. Evidently the record company in America did not like that at all because they, oh yeah, here's this label for Beat Group. So like I said, it's the same except it's a different color. Well, I guess it's not quite the same. It's, yeah, but it's a different color. Yeah, so the next one in England was called For Certain Because. Yeah, the American people must not have liked it because they didn't release it. Instead, they took a single, Bus Stop, and called the album Bus Stop. But they went back to some of the earliest albums, like Here I Go Again, Stay with the Hollies, and also, yeah, the one that was just called the Hollies. So this is kind of like a compilation album, I guess you could say, but it's not really a greatest hits. So that's 1966. This label is, yeah, kind of like that. This one's pink for a color there. So in 1967, the next album the Hollies released is called Evolution. It's released in a slightly different format. These are no longer Sunday's releases. These are Parlophone reissues now. This came out in 2016. This was a cool reissue on Parlophone. They added, there's two records in here, a single version, a stereo version, and a mono version. So, yeah, these are on the classic Parlophone labels. Here's the mono version. The stereo looks exactly the same. Yes, this was released in the United States in a slightly different format. This is the British version of it. So, by this time they were, getting more into the psychedelic era, more like all the other bands in England were at the time. So, they also added an orchestra in on this one. So about half of the songs have, I guess you wouldn't really call it an orchestra, but like horns, strings. It's got some accompaniment to it besides just the Hollies playing on it. So, yeah, this one gets to be, a little bit more psychedelic. So, Water on the Brain, I would say, Lullaby to Tim. This is a really excellent album. And then the very last one they released with Graham Nash, I'm only reviewing the Graham Nash years here, is Butterfly. As far as I can tell, this was not released in the United States. I'm not certain about that, though. Once again, this is this Parlophone reissue from 2016, so it has both the mono and the stereo versions in it. And, none of these are really hit songs. These are like album tracks, but it's a really good album. I like all these albums a lot, so... the only Hollies records I've ever found in record stores here in the U.S. are, used ones from the 60s are two greatest hits albums. So this is called the Hollies Greatest Hits. Got this one a few years ago. This is on Imperial Records. Has Bus Stop on it. Has a great song on it called Pay You Back With Interest, which was not on any of the U.S. albums. Then I found, this also came with the original inner sleeve. I like these inner sleeves. This is for Imperial Records, so, I see the ones for the other record labels a lot, but Imperial, you don't see all that often. So here's what the actual original label looked like. So they mirrored it very closely with those Sunday's reissues. I found another greatest hits. This is on Capitol Records, so... I don't know what happened with that, but this also has Bus Stop on it. This is actually what we're listening to right now. So that's it. That's my Hollies collection. British Invasion Band, mostly pop songs until those last couple albums that got a little bit more psychedelic. And I guess Graham Nash was writing some songs that sounds like maybe the rest of the band didn't particularly want to record anymore. So, they had a great career after he left. Some of their biggest hits were after that. Long Cool Woman, my favorite song, is a great rock song. Also, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, Air That I Breathe. So they were very successful after Graham Nash left. Obviously, Graham had great success too. So that's it, the Hollies. Please let me know if you have any thoughts about the Hollies. Really good band. Thanks very much for watching, and hope you have a great day.